Say you want to do an interplanetary mission from Earth to Mars. You've used your various resources like phase angle calculators or pork chop plots to pick out the proper departure date, and then you've launched your craft into a parking orbit close to the ecliptic plane. Then you created a maneuver node and entered enough prograde velocity, and though sometimes the transfer works out in your favor, sometimes you end up with something like this. A trajectory that goes out as far as Mars does, but never gets close to intercept. This is due to the relative inclination between Earth and Mars. You could solve this problem a couple different ways. First, you could do a major mid-course correction maneuver at the Mars ascending or descending node, but this can end up costing you more delta V than you can afford. In stock Kerbal space program, this is not a huge problem because Kerbin and Duna are only off by half a degree. However, while Earth and Mars are off by roughly 2 degrees. Plus, the orbital velocities in stock KSP are not as high as in real life. So instead of something like a 200 meters second delta V mid-course correction, it can cost up to 900 meters a second. And add that to the 3,500 meters a second ejection maneuver, things can get rather pricey. So instead, you could try an off-plane trajectory from your current parking orbit. But often, that ends up costing more than a mid-course correction in deep space. Though, if you could plan for an off-plane transfer prior to launching, you could turn a 4,400 meters a second transfer cost back to 3,500 meters a second. So what I want to do here is describe how to do this. Now this procedure has a couple different methods of doing so, and I'll try to cover them both, but it requires a couple different tools. First, we're going to need a precise maneuver-like program or tool in KSP. Precise maneuver is what I'm using. You're also going to need to be able to figure out how the trajectory is going to leave Earth. I personally am using trajectory optimization tool to give me a good head start on the trajectory, but this is something that you could solve by yourself. All you really need to do is just create a maneuver and then just kind of solve it just by just arbitrarily pulling on the different maneuver node thingies and until you get a trajectory that works. Of course, you'll probably end up with something that's highly inaccurate or inefficient, but that's okay. Just as long as we've solved the problem, that's all that really matters. Let me just go ahead and close this out right now. So now that we've actually got a solution, and as we can just go ahead and double check, that maneuver I had there was just for the initial opening. You can see that the Mars encounter has a periapsis of 700 kilometers, and we could fine-tune that. But once we finally have this, what we're going to need to do now is switch over to another dummy spacecraft that we have in orbit. This spacecraft right here is actually not a spacecraft that I intended to send out to Mars. It's really just a dummy. I just have it in the ecliptic plane, and if you're launching from the Cape Canaveral, you actually can't launch into the ecliptic plane. You can launch close to it, but you're going to be off by about 5 degrees. But no matter, we're going to go and fix, or basically show how to deal with that. So I'm going to go ahead and show probably the first method, inefficient, but a less efficient than the final method. We're going to just go ahead and choose a target dummy here. Let's go ahead and set that as target there, just so we know that's the one we're working with. But we're going to need to pay attention to how much delta V we actually need to apply to the departing spacecraft. And the nice thing about precise maneuver is you can actually rotate the vector out. So I'm just going to go and do that right now. So I think all I need to do here is rotate it downwards. And this is actually going to tell us how much delta V we are going to need in order to leave Earth. Just go ahead and keep rotating it down. Okay, let's try to get that as close as possible. And as you can see, it's 3550 or 354891. 354891. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it like that. Now, what we're going to want to do is actually, after we've written that down, we might just want to go ahead and write that down right now. Let me write it down because I'm terrible at remembering things. 3548.91. Let's go ahead and reset it back to what it was. I have these presets here, so I'm paying attention to what we're doing. So we want to actually leave this in that state that actually takes us out to Mars. So we just go ahead and confirm there. Now, let's go ahead and switch over to our dummy craft. Let's go ahead and switch to that. Okay, so we're going to need to use HyperEdit in order to figure this out. Let's go ahead and target the dummy ecliptic again. Let's go ahead and set that as target. And we're going to go ahead and attempt to basically align our spacecraft into this plane that is put us in. Actually, what I should have done is actually written down the inclination that we were looking at before. And actually, I think I might do that right now. So let me just go ahead and switch back, and we can do that. So let's go ahead and switch to. Alrighty, so we got this, and so if we go and take a look at the ejection inclination is 73.95 degrees. 73.95 degrees. So, yeah, let's go ahead and switch back over to our dummy. Let's go ahead and switch to that. Hopefully this isn't taking too long. This is my first take, so I'm just going to see how this goes. Now, we're going to go ahead and create a maneuver node that basically lines up with that. Now, that is 9 days. Now, I have a couple different options of creating this maneuver. Let's see what we can do. If I just go ahead and add a maneuver here, let's just see if we can add... Am I going to be able to do that? Well, actually, I might just use MechJeb in order to take this maneuver out to the appropriate time. I think we just need to go to Maneuver Node, Editor, and let's go ahead and do this. And let's go ahead and say 24 hours. Alrighty, so there's that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what are we at? 8 days. This is going to be 9 days, 22. Let's go ahead and do it one more. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And let's just go ahead and give it a couple more orbits here. How much time do we have? So we're going to need to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like... We want them leaving roughly at the same time. So I think if we just go ahead and give it one more orbit here, 21. Yeah, I think this is going to be close. We're only off by about an hour, which is perfectly fine. We're just going to go ahead and leave that there. Now we're going to go ahead and use HyperEdit. Let's go to Orbit Editor, and we're just going to go ahead and use the complex here, and we're just going to go ahead and first enter in the inclination. There's basically, I have this in an equatorial orbit, and we just need to enter in that inclination we wrote down before. It's 73.95. Let's go ahead and apply that. Boop. Like that. Now, we're in a highly polar orbit. Now this is, like I said, this is a more efficient, but not as efficient as the next method. It's going to require a little bit more eyeballing. But now, let's just go ahead and switch over to graphical, and we're going to need to make sure that on this side of the orbit, we are actually going up. So which way, where are we? Are we going down? Are we going up? I can't really tell. I think we're going south here, so this is actually the way that we want it to. So what we need to do now is just rotate the longitude of the ascending node to roughly align with our maneuver that we initially planned. So that's pretty dang close, but I like to get that a little bit closer. So let's just go into complex here, and let's just go ahead and futz with the numbers a little bit. So if we just go ahead and hit apply here, let's go just do one of these like that. Really, really close. Let's go maybe 8. Yeah, that's close enough. Alrighty. So now we are in the plane of our ejection maneuver. So all we need to do now is just kind of tap this for a moment, and then go ahead and bring the orbit back a few degrees. Try to get it as lined up as possible, like this. That's close-ish. Yeah, that's basically it. We're not perfect. We're actually off by half a degree, so let's just go ahead and apply this. No, 85, 90. We want to get this as close as possible. Maybe just 68. Wow, that's actually really close. Let's just go ahead and... Yeah, that's really close. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we're going to still need to play with the numbers also. Now now that we've got this dummy target in orbit, what we're going to want to do now is basically enter in the prograde amount that we wrote down before. So that is, what, 3548. $35.48.91 is what we're looking at. And if we are lucky, then this will bring us to a point that basically takes us out to Mars without any trouble. And hey, it looks like it has done it. So that basically describes the first method of planning out a maneuver. So all we need to do now is when we go to launch is basically target this dummy, insert into an orbit that is perfectly aligned with this, and basically copy this transfer. Let's just go ahead and take a look and just prove that we are close. Not bad, not bad. Not as good as our last one, but all we need to do is basically just kind of play with the numbers a little bit, and boom. There you go. That is dang close. That didn't require too much effort to do. So pretty good. Not bad. I'm actually pretty happy with how that worked out. So if we just go ahead and set this as target. So yeah, you'll see that we are doing an off-plane transfer. We are neither in the Earth or Martian plane, but we still make it to Mars with a relatively efficient amount of delta V. Now, in this example that I've given, this is actually like a really bad transfer window for Earth to Mars, and when you get there, it's going to require quite a bit of delta V to capture. And I probably could have done better, but this is only an example. You could probably fine-tune this quite a bit with the departure and arrival dates, but we're not getting into that right now. So, alrighty, so this is method one. This is method one for making the plan. Now, method two basically involves doing the exact same thing, but instead of bringing ourselves into a really highly elliptical orbit, highly polar orbit, we try to launch into basically the most efficient plane from where we're launching from. So, say if it's Cape Canaveral, it would be an inclination of 28.5 degrees. If it were Baikonur, even though it's not up as high as 51.6, but basically they couldn't launch any lower than 51.6. So let's just go ahead and do Cape Canaveral. So what we're going to do now is pick our second dummy here. So in order to plan for this, you only really need two dummies, an ecliptic and a secondary, but I've done three for this. So let's just go ahead and switch this guy. We're going to need to do that same thing where we create a maneuver node after the fact. That is about 9 days and 22 hours, but that's fine. Let's just go ahead and go to hyperedit here. Let's go ahead and orbit edit, and let's go ahead and select the active vessel. So yeah, this one is actually already in the right inclination. I remembered to do that earlier. So now what we need to do is create the maneuver. Let's go and add a maneuver. I wish precise maneuver allowed you to just enter in the information here, but they've locked that for some reason, and I don't know why. So I'm going to use MechJeb to help us out here. Precise node, what precise maneuver was previously, allowed you to enter in the information manually. But that's fine. So let's just go to Maneuver Planner. Nope, not Maneuver Planner. I don't use MechJeb that often. Maneuver Node Editor. Let's go ahead and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright. And I think we just need to give it 22 hours. 9 days, 7 minutes. And this is 9 days, 21 hours. So let's just go ahead and give it 20 hours. 20 hours. Boop. There we go. That's roughly close to where we want to do. So now what we're going to want to do, now sometimes this won't work out exactly for us, and this might be an example because we're leaving in such a high trajectory, we might not be able to do it like this. So this might all be for naught, but let's just go ahead and try and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and enter in the same amount of prograde velocity that we had before, which was 3548. Okay. $35, 48. Let's actually go ahead and break it down. 0.91. I think that's right. So now, what we're going to need to do is basically adjust this departure so we actually leave an inclination that kind of goes up like that. So let's just see if that's even possible. And so if not, we're going to need to basically decide a higher inclination that we launch into, but it won't have to be as high as this 78 degree or 73 degree inclination. So let's just see what we can do here. So as we can see, we might be able to do it. That's kind of hard to tell. I'm trying to guess how far this goes up, and I think that'll work. I think if we just do it about like that, that might work out for us. But we're launching in the completely opposite direction, but that's fine, because we will use HyperEdit again to help us fix this problem. So I think what we're going to need to do is just flip this around by 180 degrees. Let's go to Orbit Editor, and let's just go ahead and use the graphical thingy and just flip it around like that. And let's just go ahead and touch this like this for a moment. And let's see. Alright, so yeah, let's okay, so yeah, this actually proves that we are close. I think what I'm going to want to do though is adjust this so this is lower like that. And so what I'm basically this process is eyeballing, but we can basically get this close. What I want this thing to do, these basically need to be parallel. And so I'm just kind of eyeballing how this works. So I think if I bring this out like this, that's roughly close. Let's just go ahead and bring it down a little bit like this. I'm guessing that's right. All right, now let's just go ahead and rotate this around a little bit more and touch it again. Alrighty, let's just go ahead and rotate it around a little bit more and touch it again. Actually, that's not bad. So we're definitely getting close, and this proves that we're going to be able to do this launch from this this latitude, and basically going due east when we launch. So the problem is we're still launching a little bit too high. So I think we're going to need to go like that. About yay like that, and let's go back to Orbit Editor, and let's just bring a little bit over. And at one point, or at a certain point, I'm going to need to switch over to the complex and enter it in manually, but that's fine. So let's just go ahead and touch it again. Alright, so yeah, we're actually getting really close, but we are going to need to start editing it manually. So the longitude, the ascending node, let's just go ahead and apply it like this. Let's go ahead and touch it. And let's go ahead and say bring it back down to 238.5. Let's go and apply that. 0.4 maybe? Let's just go ahead and 0.1. So yeah, we are actually leaving what we're attempting to do is leave on a parallel trajectory to the other one that we've targeted. And if we can do that with the same amount of velocity, then we will end up at Mars at the, basically the same place. So I think what we're going to need to do now is just go and bring this back over here. Let's go ahead and say 0.5. Let's go ahead and apply it. Let's go ahead and touch it. And we are getting really, really close. We're getting really, really close. Let's just go ahead and 0.1 and touch it. Wow. Okay. That could be close enough. That's really dang close. Let's go ahead and target Mars here. It's close, no cigar though. Close, no cigar. Oh, you know what we did? We changed the amount of velocity that the other vehicle left at. So let's just go ahead and set that as target. What? No, that's not what I wanted. Where is it? Where is our target? Let's go ahead and set this as target. And what is this leaving at? 3549, basically just 49.0. So we might want to change the way that works. But actually, if we go ahead and take a look at it, even though we are, it looks like from one direction we're doing the right thing, we're not exactly doing the right thing. So I think what I need to do is actually rotate the longitude of the ascending node back a little bit, and we will be working a little bit better. Also, let's just go ahead and bring this back like that. Okay. I think some of this takes a little bit of guesswork. Sometimes it works really, really easily, and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm thinking we want it to look basically perfectly aligned, but looks like I'm not doing a very good job at that. So what do we need to do here? What do we need to do? We might just need to target Mars and just figure it out and just basically start playing with the numbers a little bit. But if not, I'll go back and try to fix it a little bit. So if we just go ahead and adjust this a little bit. Yeah, see, we are really close. But say if I were to adjust these numbers, and I might just want to adjust it by seconds here. Yeah, see, I got close enough, and all I need to do was get close enough, and that's all we need to do. Yeah, we are there. I did add like 2 meters a second to the burn. That's fine. That's fine. Let's go ahead and focus view here. And now all we need to do is just fine tune this thing. Let's go ahead and get orbiter editor out of there. And what do we need to do here? Do we need to bring this down like that? Yes. Now it's just a whole bunch of refinement. I think I could basically fix this a little bit by adjusting with these numbers. Am I getting further away? I think I'm getting further away. If that is 55, let's do it the other way. That's 48. Okay. And sometimes you just need to play with the numbers. At this point, I've basically already proven that we can do the thing. So yeah, not exactly the same amount of prograde velocity that we started with, but it is really dang close. Let's just go ahead and... yeah, okay. I mean, this is... I'd say that's close enough. We could basically do a mid-course correction on the way, and, you know, on the order of like 10 meters a second at most, and we'll be good to go. So that's how you do an off-plane interplanetary transfer. Now what we need to do is actually prove that this works by actually doing a mission. So for the rest of the video, what I'm going to do is just basically record myself attempting to launch and basically do this mission by following this program. Hopefully I can get it right. The vehicle I'm going to use normally only inserts into orbit at 200 kilometers, not 250. Sometimes that will cause some trouble, but assuming that this video is on my channel, then you'll probably see me succeed. So I will see you later. Thank you all for watching.